Every day at the Lawyers Committee, we have the tremendous privilege to take on intense and subtle forms of discrimination, to take on the core barriers that people face just in terms of their ability to live their lives. So our mission is to protect, defend, and advance the rights of communities of color, low-income communities, and immigrants.
We've come a long way in the civil rights movement. We've made a lot of progress. And yet some of the root issues of equal opportunity, of discrimination, are still there. Our client communities still face discrimination every day. It's often more subtle these days, somewhat more underground, and yet just as pernicious.
In August of 1963, Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. talked about a dream. And frankly, he was talking about the future, right? Talking about where we're going as a nation, where we're going as a people, where we are going as communities in terms of our equal treatment of individuals and their ability to access democracy.
The role of pro bono attorneys today is even greater than it's ever been. People that understand the community needs and are able to translate that into arguments that courts will understand and will adopt. And that's why what we really need today is creative thinkers that can move forward the civil rights movement into the 21st century.
David Abella has been a superstar volunteer with the Second Chance Legal Clinic. David is a special volunteer, not only because of his excellent skills as a lawyer, he has great aptitude for the substantive law, but also a really a great combination of kindness, compassion, respect, patience, all of the things that allow him to meet the client where he or she is and work with them in a way that's empowering and able to get real results.
My job as an attorney was understanding who my client was, where she'd been in life, what challenges she'd faced, and where she'd been from where she made a mistake in life and where she was now, and then understanding where she wanted to go. And once I had the time to understand that and know my client, that's the picture we wanted to paint to the court, that this is someone who has the capability to do extraordinary things and is deserving of those chances and deserving of those opportunities. But for this one offense on her record, she's being held back and prevented from doing that. So we were able to convince the court by persuasively presenting her story in our moving papers, and when we came into court to have the charge removed off her record. I am a junior attorney, and on many of the matters I work on, I'm definitely working under someone and getting a lot of guidance. This was an opportunity where I owned every aspect of the matter, given all of the responsibility to make sure that we had the desired result. So that was, for me as a junior attorney, empowering to have such a high level of responsibility for achieving the result that we wanted.
A lot of the clients that we have through the Legal Services for Entrepreneurs program have never really been exposed to a lot of the complicated legal questions or concerns or issues and regulations that are part of starting a business. Gail Sue has gone above and beyond in explaining these very complicated concepts to the community and making sure that they understand what they need to know in order for their business to succeed.
So with LCCR, I work primarily with the Legal Services for Entrepreneurs group. I do certain classes for people who are looking to start small businesses or have started small businesses and are in a very early phase, understand the different regulations that they might come up against. Sometimes they'll do a more extended representation where a client comes in with a problem that takes longer to resolve. So sometimes that's creating a set of contracts that they can use when they go out and do business. I've been helped by a lot of people throughout my life sometimes during hard times. And now I feel like I have something to give, and so this is an opportunity for me to pay it forward. I feel incredibly honored to receive this award from LCCR, but I think that at the end of the day, what makes me happiest is that I'm able to work with the great people at LSC and at LCCR to make it matter just a little bit in the lives of other people.
I felt so good hearing Keith Slenkovich's name and knowing that he'd kept up that spirit from 20 years ago. Our clients today are different, but their issues are exceedingly pressing, and I think today's WilmerHale people are at the forefront of dealing with these very difficult social group asylum cases.
I've been doing work with the Lawyers Committee for a long time. I started in the late 80s as a young lawyer and handled a number of cases, the most memorable being asylum cases. And I remember my first trial was a pro bono asylum trial through the Lawyers Committee of a young man from Guatemala who had feared for his life from the guerrillas in the region he was in. And at the time, the guerrillas were really controlling the area. So it was a fascinating case. I had great support from the Lawyers Committee, their network of specialists in immigration and asylum cases, and the NGOs that they're in contact with. In that case, Amnesty International was very helpful in providing evidence of what the conditions were like that my client had fled from. And we won. We got a great system of justice. We got a great system of laws. But if the underrepresented and the folks that don't have resources can't have their rights protected in the same way that persons with resources can, the system breaks down, and it's not credible, and it doesn't have integrity. So by providing these services to, whether it's an asylum applicant or another person who has not the resources to do or to hire the best lawyers, to provide those lawyers to these individuals, and it makes our system a better system.
Sheryl Davis has been an invaluable partner to the Lawyers Committee and to the Second Chance Legal Clinic in particular. Sheryl was instrumental to the launch of the clinic, and the MoMagic Collaborative continues to serve as a critical bridge between the clinic and the client community.
MoMagic is a program out of the Public Defender's Office, and MAGIC stands for Mobilization of Adolescent Growth in Our Communities. And it was really about bringing grassroots organizations together, the folks that are on the ground, service providers, community leaders, together to address the issues that are happening in their community. We also had issues around education and the ability for families to advocate and understand the system and be able to navigate it. And that means being able to help people find jobs or figure out whether they need to create their own jobs and what are the barriers to employment. And that's why the Second Chance Clinic is so important, because a lot of times the barriers to employment are things that happened 20 years ago that are on your record, and you've got to check that box that says, yes, I've got a criminal record, and it's totally not relevant to what's going on in your life today.
So the shackling lawsuit is a class action lawsuit that we filed against ICE and DHS to try to get them to change their shackling policies. What we're asking for is a change of policy, so it requires volunteer attorneys to step up and do that. And the caliber of attorneys that we have from the Wilson Sonsini team is pretty much unmatchable. I feel privileged to have the opportunity to work with them.
We began by investigating the practice for quite some number of months, and then followed on by filing a class action lawsuit in the Northern District of California, challenging what had been the government's practice of uniformly shackling all immigration detainees who were in custody and appearing before immigration judges for example, bond hearings or deportation hearings. And they were shackling these immigration detainees regardless of their age, their gender, their physical condition, for example, pregnant women or disabled. detainees, they were all being shackled in very onerous restraints involving leg irons and handcuffs and a belly chain, and the practice was applied indiscriminately, and it was causing tremendous harm to the detainees, both in the form of physical pain and also an inhibition on their ability to communicate with their counsel important information about their defense, and even to communicate even more importantly in some cases with the judge, to explain their situation, to explain why they may be entitled to relief from deportation or why they might be entitled to bond.
Representing a class is something that I think a lot of folks and a lot of young attorneys don't have the opportunity to do. So being in court and arguing a motion on behalf of the class takes on that additional level of import. Standing there and feeling as though you're not speaking on behalf of yourself, but you're speaking on behalf of hundreds and thousands of folks, and you're speaking on behalf of the side of good and the side of right, really is, I think, for a young attorney, an addicting sort of sensation.
I'm head of Wilson Sonsini's pro bono committee, and it's a privilege to be in that position. And helping those in need is what you have to do to really fulfill your commitment as a lawyer, as a professional in the society. And I think we get that chance by doing pro bono. So I think it's really a critical thing for all of us to do as lawyers. And LCCR is one of the great groups in the country that allows us to work together and gives us that expertise that we don't have. You know, what we can bring as a big firm and big firm lawyers is certain skills developed through multiple litigations. What we do not have is the particular expertise that you all have in particular areas of civil rights.
Renée deserves the Living the Dream Award because she truly is the embodiment of Dr. King's dream to mobilize attorneys and other advocates around the civil rights movement to be a part of it and to really stop everything and get on the ground and make sure that everybody has access to the right to vote, because she mobilized attorneys on Election Day to make sure that that right was protected.
Voting rights are deeply important to me personally. I come from a very low-income family. Both of my parents were born and raised in tenant farmer families in the Deep South. I had an uncle who was lynched for trying to register to vote in the 1950s. If election protection did not exist, I would have nightmares about the electoral process, particularly federal elections in this country. It has been basically the guardian of rights that none of us should even have to be talking about anymore. It's less important to me that we have the bells and whistles, and more important to me that people can go to the precinct, vote for the candidates and issues of their choice, and not have to worry about their job, not have to worry who's going to pick up their kids, not have to worry that the ballot is presented to them in a language that is not their first language. This award means more to me than any award I've ever received, ever. Because of that nexus, because of it drawing a complete circle around who I am professionally as a lawyer, who I am personally as a Black woman who came from extremely poor circumstances, and who I am as the descendant of a family of very proud people who always encouraged us to vote and who never stopped reminding me and everybody around them that too many of us died for that right.